Imagine a vast land full of life, green forests, mighty rivers, and endless beauty. This was America long before tall ships crossed the ocean. It was home to hundreds of tribes, each unique. They had been here for thousands of years, thriving and building nations. Each tribe had its own leaders, its own ways, and its own name. They lived with the land, understanding the rhythm of the seasons, the secrets of animals, the language of plants. Life was a circle, everything connected. Their cultures were rich: art, dance, sacred ceremonies. Life was deeply tied to nature and spirit. But a storm was on the horizon, a change no one could truly imagine. These nations were vibrant, organized, and full of life. But soon everything would be tested. The world they knew was about to shift forever. This is the story of what came before, and what was lost. The horizon darkened, and the first winds began to blow. The world was about to change forever. One day strange ships appeared from across the ocean. Europeans arrived, bringing curiosity and trade at first. But soon things changed, especially for native peoples. A shadow fell, marking a time of overwhelming sadness and loss. For native tribes, it was like a long, dark night, a dark age. This meant losing homes, loved ones, and ancient ways of life. Survival became a daily struggle. Imagine your world turned upside down in an instant. Promises were made, treaties signed, agreements reached. But so many promises were broken, ignored, or cast aside. Confusion and fear spread, but so did courage. Native peoples fought back, but the odds were immense. The newcomers brought new diseases, new conflicts, and new rules. The Dark Age was a time of broken trust and deep sorrow. Yet, even in the darkest times, there was resistance. The struggle for survival was constant. But the spirit of the people did not vanish. This was a time of loss, but also of bravery. The odds were great, but so was the will to endure. The Dark Age left scars, but also stories of resilience. The fight for justice had only just begun. The journey through darkness would shape generations, and the story was far from over. For native tribes, the land was everything sacred, alive and deeply connected to their souls. Every mountain and river held a story, but settlers wanted more land, pushing ever westward. Deals were made, some fair, many not. Often, force replaced fairness. Treaties meant to protect tribal lands were ignored. Many tribes were forced from their homes, walking hundreds of miles to unfamiliar barren places. The Cherokee called their journey the Trail of Tears. So many suffered, so many died. Old people, little children, none were spared. Tribes were confined to reservations. Small, often poor lands, a fraction of what they once had. Imagine roaming free, then being fenced in. It was a deep wound to their spirit. The earth itself seemed to cry out with them. The loss was not just of land but of identity and freedom. The pain of removal echoed for generations. Yet even in confinement the spirit endured. The land, once a source of life, became a symbol of loss. But hope remained, buried deep. The journey was harsh, but the will to survive was stronger. The earth remembered, and so did the people. The scars of removal would take generations to heal. But the connection to the land could not be erased. Even in loss, the earth and its people held on. The story of survival continued, and the spirit of the land lived on in their hearts. Language is a treasure chest, holding a people's thoughts, history, and wisdom. Native Americans spoke hundreds of unique languages, each a different way to see the world. But these languages came under attack. Boarding schools were set up to erase Native identity. Children were punished for speaking their own words. Imagine being a child far from home, unable to speak the language of your heart. This cruelty caused deep pain and silence. Many languages faded away, some lost forever. Elders passed without passing on their words. It was a great cultural loss, a loss of identity and connection. But some fought quietly to keep their words alive. In secret, they whispered the old languages. The silence was heavy, but not complete. The struggle to preserve language became an act of resistance. Even as words faded, hope remained. The loss was profound, but so was the determination to remember. Some languages survived, hidden in hearts and homes. The fight for language was the fight for identity. And the story of these words was not over. The silence would not last forever. The voices of the past waited to be heard again, and the seeds of language would one day grow anew. The story of lost tongues was also a story of hope. Traditions are the threads that connect people to their past and guide them forward. Native tribes had rich ceremonies for planting healing and giving thanks. These traditions were the heartbeat of their communities, but newcomers often misunderstood or feared them. The government banned dances and ceremonies trying to force new ways. This caused pain and confusion, weakening the heart of the tribe. People felt disconnected from their roots, but resilience ran deep. Many kept traditions alive in secret away from judging eyes. They whispered old songs to their children, told ancient stories by the fire. Even when hope seemed lost, the spirit endured. Traditions survived in hidden places in hearts and homes. The fight to keep culture alive was quiet but powerful. The light of tradition flickered but never went out. The struggle to hold on to identity was fierce, and the will to remember was unbreakable. Even in the darkest times, tradition found a way. The old ways waited for their time to return. The story of tradition is one of survival, and the heartbeat of the people never truly stopped. The threads of culture held strong even when nearly broken. The story of tradition is a story of hope, and it continues to this day. Let's talk about some tribes who faced the storm. The Cherokee Nation, advanced with their own government and alphabet, were forced on the Trail of Tears but survived and rebuilt. The Lakota Sioux, great warriors and horsemen, fought bravely for their land and sacred Black Hills, led by Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. They won at Little Bighorn, but suffered at Wounded Knee. The Apache, led by Geronimo, resisted for years in the Southwest, fighting for freedom against overwhelming odds. Each tribe's story is one of resistance, endurance, and love for their land. The Navajo, with their weaving and strong culture. The Iroquois Confederacy, a model of democracy. The Seminole, who resisted removal in Florida. The Nez Perce, led by Chief Joseph. Each tribe had its own heroes, its own heartaches. They all faced this dark time with courage. Their will to endure was powerful. These stories are not just about loss but about survival. The storm was fierce, but the spirit was fiercer. Each tribe's journey was unique, but all shared resilience. Their stories remind us of the strength within. The fight for their way of life shaped history. The courage of these nations echoes through time. Their legacy is one of hope and endurance. The storm passed, but the stories remain, and the spirit of the people endures. These are stories worth remembering. They teach us about strength, loss, and hope. The journey was hard, but the heart survived, and the story continues. The tribes faced the storm, and lived on. Their courage lights the way for future generations, and their story is far from over. Even in the darkest times, a spark of hope remained. For Native Americans, that spark was their spirit passed down through generations. They faced loss and injustice but did not break. Stories, art, and quiet acts of resistance kept their fire alive. Grandparents told stories of heroes and creation. Art, carvings, beadwork paintings held deep meaning. These were ways to say we are still here. Family and community were lifelines. People leaned on each other, sharing what little they had. Bonds of kinship helped them survive. They held on to hope for their children and the future. Hope was a seed waiting for the right time to grow. Even in despair, they believed things could get better. Their cultures would be respected again, their voices would be heard. The ember of hope never went out. It glowed quietly, waiting for the sun to rise. The story of hope is the story of survival, and the promise of a new day. The embers of hope kept the spirit alive, and the future was waiting to be claimed. The journey was not over, it was just beginning. The long, dark night did not last forever. The Dark Age was not the final chapter. Native American people and their cultures are still here, growing stronger every day. It's like a sunrise after a storm. Hope is returning. Across the country, people are reviving lost languages and traditions. Young people learn from elders, keeping songs, dances, and ceremonies alive. Tribes now have more control over their affairs. Self-determination. They decide their own future, their own path. There's a new sense of pride and confidence. Young Native Americans are leading the way, becoming doctors, teachers, artists, and leaders. They blend old ways with new, creating a bright future. The torch is carried forward for the next generations. The story is one of rebirth and renewal. Cultures once threatened are now thriving. The journey continues, stronger than ever. The sunrise grows brighter each day. The spirit of the people shines on, and the future is full of promise. The story of survival becomes a story of triumph. And the next chapter is being written now. The cultures are reborn, and the journey goes on. The light is growing, for all to see. Native American cultures are alive and vital, an essential part of America's story. Their art, wisdom, and traditions enrich everyone. We all have something to learn from them about harmony, community, and resilience. Learning. This history matters, even the hard parts. The Dark Age teaches us about strength and the fight for justice. The journey continues with challenges and hope. Native voices are growing stronger, traditions shining brighter. Imagine a future where all cultures are respected and cherished, where native traditions inspire and lead. That's a future worth working for together. Their light endures, growing brighter every day. The story of Native America is not just about the past, it's about the present and the future we build together. Their journey is our journey too. Let's listen, learn, and help that light shine. The story continues and hope grows. The cultures thrive and the world is richer for it. Their voices matter now and always. The light of Native cultures endures, and it's getting brighter all the time. The journey is not over, it's just beginning for all of us. Let's honor the story and help it grow.